Добрий день.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joined us in Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum. We continue our operation. It's day 279 of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people, and I want to thank all the representatives of the mass media who tell the world the truth about this war. And now we will be talking about our water supply system. Joining us in this studio is Dmytro Novytskyi, president of the Ukrvodokanalekolohiia Association, and also Andrei Nikitin, Vice President of the Association. So, Mr. Dmytro, let's start with the damage already inflicted on our water supply system. What's the condition, and do we have the restoration plan? Good afternoon, everybody. In fact, we have to understand that Russia started a campaign of bombardment with the goal of intimidating Ukrainian people to create certain pressure on the political government of the country so that we come to some type of negotiations, but our spirit is unbreakable. We in Vodokanal, we hold our waterfront, and the strike inflicted last week resulted in breakdown of water supply within the whole territory of Ukraine, but due to the coordinated work of the Vodokanal technicians and the power supply technicians, the water supply was resumed in the most of the areas within one day. There were issues, but they were solved in the working order, and upon the resumption of the water supply, after the strikes, it was difficult to reestablish the water supply in some long distance waterways, but still we made it. Last week, I now want to mention that thanks to the support of international donor organizations, international organizations, Vodokanal manages to reestablish water supply in the cities which were under occupation, in the area of the active warfare or adjacent areas, and it's very important part of work that we are doing now. And the task of our Vodokanal enterprises is the reestablishing of water supply to the parts of Ukraine where it was broken down, or providing the technical help to the Vodokanal branches in the deoccupied areas, because the first works aimed at support were started specifically in the branches of Vodokanal adjacent in Kyiv region and the city of Kyiv, I mean Irpin, Bucha, Borodyanka, Hostomel, and the first support provided by the international organizations, in particular ICRC. It was implemented in those cities, and further on in Chernigiv, we had certain difficulties because we were unable to get to that area within the first days, but Vodokanal formulated its requirement. We got the support from the government. We got funding for restoration of water supply facilities within the prompt period. And with our thanks to the coordination with the government, with our regulator, now we focused first of all on the work in the occupied territories in Kharkiv region, Balakleya, Izyum, Veliki Priluki, and we have formulated the requirements for the Vodokanal facilities, and the document is handed to the international organizations, the donors who help us. The requirements are being documented all over the areas. We gather their information all over the branches, and this is how we coordinate our work with international organizations. First of all, I would like to pay attention to the cooperation with UNICEF, because it's the UN body which is responsible for WASH cluster, and they are responsible for coordination of this work in Ukraine. And now the cooperation with UNICEF proves very fruitful results in Ukraine, but we see that this work has to be intensified. We entered into a memorandum with UNICEF recently, under which a group for coordination of the project was established, and this group is headed by Andrei Nikitin, Vice President of the association, whom you just introduced. We will let him tell about the work of this cluster shortly, about the work of the teams who helped to resume the water supply to the cities. And UNICEF provides support to Ukrvodokanal in terms of procuring of reagents, which is very important, starting from the very beginning of the active warfare, because according to the statistics, such support was given to 3.5 million persons in general, which is very important. The working group was created, and its support was aimed to help the operation of Vodokanals all across Ukraine, since the WASH cluster will continue its operation even after our victory. I would also like to draw your attention to our cooperation with the ICRC. They're getting blamed for other areas they work in, but as to the cooperation in the area of water supply is coming from ICRC. That's most sensible help we're getting. We have calculations for Balaklia, Veliki Burluk, for Kherson. The works are in progress, and we hope that shortly the necessary decisions will be taken with regard to the technical help to the mentioned cities, and much more to come. It's difficult to mention all the cities, like Kiselivka in Kherson region and many cities in Kharkiv region. The works are in progress, and we hope that this work will become more efficient as more territories will be liberated. And we see that in the deoccupied cities, the infrastructure is completely destroyed. So utility facilities in the cities are destroyed, and there will be a lot of work to be done with the help of international financial organizations. We hope we will make it. However, we don't only rely on the help from international organizations, but also we rely on our Ukrainian sources, and specifically for this reason, we emphasize the importance of development of the strategy of the industry, because under the conditions of limited resources, the availability of strategic documents allows for proper planning of such works, and we will be poised to success in terms of resumption of the water supply and the resumption of operation of water facilities. You mentioned Kiselivka. The works are in progress on resuming the supply of potable water in that place. What's the situation over there? Well, we agreed not to disclose the works which are currently in progress, because we cannot arm the enemy with such information. All right, so if we may proceed to Kharkiv region, we understand that the works are in progress. In percentage, how many towns were reconnected to the water supply? There are calculations still in progress, and in Balaklia, for example, we will repair the water treatment facility, because it's operating in limited mode, because without proper water treatment, you understand, proper water supply is impossible. We will have to make a waterway across the river, but I want to emphasize that apart from the centralized water supply are helpers. I could say the organizations who support us, they organize the delivery of potable water in bottles, in other vessels. There are water tank trucks provided to Vodokanal to the places which require such potable water. Do we understand the scale of destruction in Kherson and Kherson region? Well, Kherson is provided by artesian water, and the works are in progress in repairing the water supply system, but the biggest problem is the availability of power supply. So we coordinated it with Kherson Vodokanal and Kherson military administration, our government and international organizations for procuring of generators. So what's your estimate of the losses of the water supply system? The World Bank estimated it at 5 billion hryvnias, but it's that part, is that fraction which is already apparent, what we're seeing now. I'm sure this figure is way bigger, at least several times bigger, because objective evaluation is impossible now. And maybe the question which everybody is concerned with, we know that the last week after the last massive missile strike, blackout happened, and we understand that our water supply system depends on this. Are there any solutions searched or already implemented? Yes, every city finds their own solution, because every city has their own requirements. The military governors and the mayors of the cities, they know about their risks and they work out these solutions, because in the majority of the cities it can be solved by proper number of generators, by sufficient number of generators. We're still having meetings, and there is a number of steps which contemplate alternative water supply, and yes, such solutions are being searched and found in the cities. I would like to invite Mr. Andrei to talk about this powerful cluster which already works on resumption of water supply in the fastest manner possible. Good afternoon. My name is Andrei Nikitin. I'm Vice President of the Ukrvodokanalekolohiia. We created this WASH cluster which helps coordinate the efforts of all our partners, donors, all our financial supports. WASH cluster is the abbreviation. It's all which relates to water, sanitary and hygiene. As of today, we have dozens of donors who help our facilities to support or sometimes improve our activity. And I want to be honest with you, without this help it would be a lot more difficult for us to provide the services provided by our association. What I would like to add, as of today, the most critical situation is in two areas. It's the systematic destruction by our enemy of the power grid of our country, on which Vodokanal's activities on functioning depend, and we see the systematic destruction in the occupied territories, and a lot of facilities are pillaged, and a lot of things are missing, a lot of equipment is missing for proper functioning of our system. The main thing I would like to tell you, in this water cluster, we and all our donors, we work on provision of proper water supply in case of a long blackout resulted from missile attacks happening on a weekly basis. So we organize our activity in a way so that Vodokanal could keep supplying water, at least if not centralized water supply, so we could give people water in their hands and to provide water treatment. And another area of our work is the restoration of the territories of the facilities destroyed by our enemy. We see some systematic examples in the liberated cities. The water supply system, sewer systems, collectors, and water treatment facilities are destroyed. Almost always the office equipment is pillaged, so there is no proper accounting. There is no way for Vodokanal to accumulate costs and funds, and all those directions, all those areas where our donors support us, as it was already mentioned, International Organization for Migration, ICRC, and the association itself accumulates the funds for the needs of the basic needs of the people. We organize our work for provision of potable water to people. We organize the supply of generators to the pump stations so people get water in their dwellings, and also for treatment of sewage. And then we proceed to short and long-term projects in terms of restoration of the infrastructure installations. As to their countries or organizations who joined the cluster, who are they? Well, it's a lot of countries, and it's a very long list, both from Western Europe, mostly from European Union, and other countries like United States or Great Britain. Thank you. And Mr. Dmytro, I invite you. I understand there will be questions. Dear colleagues, your questions. Good afternoon. Yana Koloda, Ukrinform. I have a question to Mr. Dmytro. Do you have any calculations on the funds necessary to repair the systems of water supply which were damaged or destroyed as a result of war? I mentioned previously that the previous estimate made by the World Bank is about $5 billion, which are required for restoration of our facilities. But that's something obvious. These are the apparent works to be done, but I think that this number is way bigger. I think it's dozens of millions of dollars. I think I said hryvnias. I think I said 5 billion hryvnias, but the estimate of the World Bank as of the end of the summer is $5 billion. Now we're talking about the figure way bigger than that. And thank you. And I have another question. Due to the destruction by the Russian occupiers of the pump station of Mykolaiv Vodokanal in the occupied part of Kherson region, the consumption of water from Dnipro was postponed. What is the period required, and what are the resources required to resume this supply of potable water from Dnipro River? This is the question better to be addressed with the head of Mykolaiv Vodokanal. The works are in progress and they will be completed. Any more questions, friends?
In your work and the problems with water supply in Ukraine right now, how much do they depend on direct damage which was done to infrastructure, and how much is it due to the lack of electricity in order to actually restore systems?
Дякую за ваше питання.
I appreciate your question. It's somewhat complicated, and I would say that Ukraine suffers in whole due to the destruction of the power grid. And you see when there are strikes on the critical infrastructure, the water supply is being cut everywhere. And really, yes, we have to direct the generators and water tank trucks to the areas with the most dense population, so we can provide at least basic critical level of water supply. We know how to do it, and we will do it in cooperation with our partners and donors. There is a program in place, and everybody knows what to do. As to the destroyed installations, destroyed facilities, we have a lot of projects already implemented in the occupied territories. First of all, in Kyiv region, as I mentioned, Irpin, Bucha, Gostomel, Borodyanka, and now we work on reconstruction and renewal of the destroyed infrastructure in Kherson and Kharkiv region, which suffered a lot. Well, it's not a secret for anybody that the areas mostly damaged are those close to the contact, to the forward edge of the battle areas. Thank you for joining us, dear colleagues. Our next briefing will be at 14:30. We will talk about the fuel market of Ukraine. Bear with us. Let's work for our victory and glory for Ukraine.
Дякуємо.